courses and institutions put pressure on competition. And especially in areas where competition is already playing, this is a part of the discourse, of course.
Any more questions? Yes, Aaron.
Your paper, you analyzed 3 factors mainly influeing the efficiency or inefficiency of the university. Is this on the second stage analysis? So you have the inefficiency or efficiency here, you regress on 3 different determinants?
Well, the output distance function tend to estimate it simultaneously.
Oh,
So,
yes.
disentangling
Yes.
those factors, which are the inefficiency terms, and modeling the inefficiency terms using those factors. It is not a typical, how can I say, second stage regression.
It's a one step.
Understand. So I just wonder whether you would like to use the second stage analysis to have a double check of your results, to have a robustness check, maybe so.
Yes. Yes, that's absolutely correct. We want to try to do that. There's a huge debate in the methodological discourse on this.
Yes.
If I present the 2-stage procedure, someone say, I think that you should estimate in a single step. But yes, doing the 2 things together can be, especially following the way that you can do by bootstrapping procedures, can be good. To try to check what is going on.
Maybe instead of applying a second stage relation, what you can do is compare a non-parametric with a parametric specification like this. So maybe if you run the conditional order M model with environmental factors that allow you to obtain the same impact in one step, you can reinforce your results or add more robustness to the main fund.
That's absolutely right. I know that it will require 1 month of estimation.
Yes,
but yes, I will. Yes,
yeah. Even I don't know if it's quite tempting, but using a more specific variable for location could be very useful if you have the location of each university in the space. Use spatial econometric techniques, weighting the impact of neighbors in every single university. So it's not the same, maybe the neighbors in Milan or the neighbors in, I don't know, in a region of the south. So they have more competition in the north than in the south, and this weight matrix can measure this impact of neighbors.
Yeah.
We can discuss about that.
In the past, what we tried to do was in the very past, was to estimate gravity models for trying to see how universities are able to attract students, which is part of the story. It is not exactly what you did mean, which is much more specific and related to the idea of market competition. Yes, the real phenomenon that we want to try to catch, and it is difficult to catch, is what happens at the borders of these regions. So you do have some big migration phenomena, and these are quite well caught by the model. You do have some phenomenon of these students going to study in Milan or going to study in Bologna, for instance. And the problem with it is that we should include the proportion of students from other regions, which again suffer the problem of the borders. So for instance, this region is quite well populated. The proportion of students from here going to Lombardy is quite small, because they tend to go to Bologna. Even though overall they are able to attract much more. And Bologna is attracting students from all the region, and so the proportion of students from other regions tend to underestimate the competition effect. So one thing that we try to do, and it is difficult for data availability, is to check the data not at regional level, but at province level, and which is province are administrative units between. So for instance, in Lombardy there are 12 provinces, and then you can catch. My impression is that looking at the demand side, so how the students move is an important part of the story, but actually looking at the market share, we are looking at something which is a bit different. You know, given the amount of students that move, that we don't know, or we don't calculate here, we want to see how in that specific market, university is able to have the higher market share. So we are not very much interested in how the students move, but once they arrive in a place, how much are attracted by that university. But yes, we can make further comparison on that, sure.
A couple of points. I'm hung up about this market share thing as well, because almost everything that you've said to us is telling me you're using completely the wrong kind of market share variable. You know, you're telling us that students are moving from the south to the north. Well, that means that Bocconi and Politecnico have a footprint that covers the whole country. Now, that's probably going to be true only for the top institutions in the north,
Yeah.
but I think you should be looking at where students come from for what the competition is like, rather than saying that your competition is governed by what's going on in your particular region. Now, if I look at my institution, I know what our competitors are. They're Manchester, Warwick, Nottingham and Exeter. They're all over the place. But that's because they're doing the same kind of courses as us, they're in the same segment of the market as us. It's not a geographical thing. For some other institutions, geography does matter a lot. But you could be looking at some kind of, if you could drill down to student level data and look at where students in the south or other parts of the country choose to go to study, you could do a propensity score matching exercise that established which institution are in competition with which. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the method you're using seems to be like a mix of true random effects and Coles, corrected ordinary least squares. And Coles is the kind of thing we used to use before stochastic frontier came along, because it attributes the whole residual to an efficiency. So you haven't got a component of efficiency that is down to noise. Yeah?
Yes.
And you're comparing with an SFA model where you have got noise in there, and you're finding that in the SFA model, the southern universities are coming off a lot better, which is suggesting to me that they've got a big big component of the normal residual there, which in turn is suggesting that you've got some omitted variable bias in there somewhere. And maybe the omitted variable is this other aspect of competition.
But are you saying that the omitted variable is in the estimation of the determinants of inefficiency, or in the parameters of the production function?
I'm saying it's in your Wang model.
Yeah.
That you've got some variables in there that.
So it is in the parameters.
Yeah.
Not in the inefficiency.
Yeah. But I've suggested a fix to it as well, and that is looking at other aspects of competition, because they may be the missing variable.
Yeah. Well, with respect to the second, I have to look at the. I would look more on what the stochastic frontier analysis is catching that is not caught by the one-in-whole model. With respect to the first, we reflect a lot on that. I think that in our view, but I'm open to discussion, that's an interesting point. I think that attractiveness is something different from competition. So the real point that I want to try to catch is that attracting students is very much related to the area. Competition is much more related to the universities you have in that area. So, for instance, I do know that all is equal, students tend to go there. Then my problem is not to attract students from there. My problem is when I have the students there, they decide to go to Milan. Why? Because they want to go to Milan, or to the north, or searching for, once they are there, my problem is I'm competing with other universities which are in Milan. Something like that. But so the market share tends to capture more the fact that I am operating in a place in which I am alone. All the students that decide to study here are respectively of from where they come there, because I am a lawyer. All the students coming there, they decide. That's the idea of having the market share and not the flux of the students.
So does that suggest a mixed effects multi-level model then?
Possibly, but I've seen two more
Okay,
hands up.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
I think, did you have, yeah, please, sir?
Oh, yes.
Yes, this might sound a bit silly, but since you have used within transformation, aren't you observing the changes in efficiency and then naming it as efficiency? Like, for example, if you have an inherently inefficient university to start with, and it has improved a little bit, you will perceive it as an efficient university because it has improved a little bit, but it's inherently inefficient. And
Yes, well, by doing the within, this is part of the question that is in the grain question. Yes, by doing this within transformation, I am attributing this. I am assuming, well, the model is assuming that it is time invariant, unobserved characteristic of the unit. This is the sense of doing the within transformation, which is something that, to the extent that actually I do have a variant part of the inefficiency, I miss part of it. I'm attributing it in a wrong way to the structural difference.
aren't you missing a major part of it? Because if a university is very inefficient at the start, and if it only improves a little bit,
Yes, well,
this will suggest that that university is efficient, but it is not.
yes, this is true if in a small panel, this problem should be a bit reduced. Because I don't have, I do have a time variant component which should be pretty small. But yes, that's part of what I'm throwing away by the within transformation, which is, however, part of the assumption of the model.
So can you also look at between effects and see
Yes.
whether
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the last question.
Thank you. Please, which role does efficiency play in the determinant of university ranking?
The discourse about rankings is exactly about output and not resources that you have. This is part of the motivation, in my view, to look at the efficiency way of judging the activity of a university. We did some work by comparing what comes out when looking at rankings and when looking at efficiency. And what you observe is that typically rankings are based on measures of output that you're able to produce, irrespective of the inputs that you're employing for obtaining it. My impression is that efficiency is much more difficult to communicate as a concept than if the ranking is. Calculate how many publications you do is pretty easy, or seems pretty easy. Argumenting that you're obtaining with very different levels of inputs, it's more difficult. But yes, I think that the view of efficiency challenges the idea of ranking in quite a radical way, in my view.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you so much.